Thank you for the introduction. Good morning to everybody. I'm happy to be here again after the vibrant day that we lived yesterday with the remarks about the importance of industry, of commerce, of the exchange of opportunities between different sides of the world. This morning I will try to explain some thoughts and to share with you some ideas about the world that we are living. I can certainly say that we live in an uncertain way. Then I have the certainty of the uncertainty. Then the idea is that nowadays we live a different world if we compare it with the world that our parents, our grandparents lived. Why is it? It's because we have some sceneries in the world that they are different. And the young students, the teenagers, the people that nowadays they are kids, they are going to live in a very different world also. Uncertainty that has to deal with, for example, technology. The advances of technology nowadays, they are so fast that sometimes we cannot follow how fast they are. Because one day we have a mobile, a cell phone, next day we have other kind, a different generation. All of us, or most of us, because I can see some very young people here, but most of us, we were not born when internet was alive. Yeah? Myself, I am not a digital native. I am a migrant. And I have to learn a new language that I learned from my son, my youngest son. He teach me how to deal with computers, with Facebook, with Skype, with WhatsApp even. When we think about WhatsApp, some years ago, it was impossible to imagine what kind of technology we will have nowadays. And it is talking about communications. I know that our friend Hisham is very familiar with television. I'm also a TV person because I have a show every week in Ecuador and a radio show, and they are living together with internet, with YouTube, with what we are doing now, and probably with what we will be doing next year or next generation. Then I said it's in the area of communications. But what happens with biotechnology? We can imagine how the world was when it was not antibiotics in our lives. Probably most of us couldn't survive that because antibiotics make the difference. But now we are talking about the ADN of a person, then not in the future, but probably now and in next years, we are going to have personalized doctors for every person, different kind of medicine. In my life, I had some very hard moments. One of the most hardest moments that I lived was when my father, a pediatrician, told me that I had a Down syndrome kid. My second kid was a Down syndrome kid. And I feel at that moment that my life ends. It was more than 30 years ago. But because the first question that I make myself is, why to me? Why? And I was complaining about God and about everything, about life, because of my situation. But almost immediately, I changed the question, and I say, why not me? If many families in the world, if many people in the world has that strong feelings, why not me? But when I accepted that my kid was a Down syndrome kid, and he was not going to have the life that my previous kid and the next ones, suddenly he was very sick and he passed away. It was also like the end of the life for me, because I think that the rule of nature is that the kids survive the parents, not in the contrary sense. I don't know if in Arab is a word to describe the situation when you lose a baby. Because when you lose your parents, you say that you are an orphan in English, or huérfano in Spanish. But I researched and I never found a word to describe, because it's not natural. It's not the law of life. But why I told you this story, but my very personal story, it's because probably in the future, with the modification of ADN, there will not be more Down syndrome kids. Because nowadays, if you are pregnant, you can know exactly what's in your belly. If you can know exactly, like after a couple of months when you are pregnant, if you are going to have a Down syndrome. From this to modify the ADN, it could be some years more, probably more decades more, but probably in the future we will not have Down syndrome kids. The scientists are talking about this generation with our very close friend, José Ramón Calvo, that he had a lot of Nobel laureates friends. I was talking with Rick Roberts, one of the Nobel laureates that really I admire. He's a doctor in medicine, and he told me, Rosalia, I can tell you that now, because of the abuse that we had with antibiotics, because they are not working more, and we need next generation and next generation only to cure a simple infection, and says, we are working now how to make an alliance with bacteria. The doctors, the most important doctors in the world, are working to make an alliance with bacteria. Why? Because most of our bacteria that live in our body, they are good bacteria, really good ones. They help us in our health. But we have some bad bacteria, and the good ones have to fight inside us to give us health. What a fabulous challenge it is. And I can't talk forever here, if you support me, about new advances in science. But it creates a world of uncertainty, because we don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to be a kind of cyborgs, mixed of robots and mixed of human beings? I remember that I think probably a couple of years ago, that robot, Sophie, a woman robot, he was given the nationality from Saudi Arabia. Now she's a Saudi Arabian. And she, I have to talk about a she, because her name is Sophie, is a robot. And it's very interesting, because she gave an interview to a journalist. And the journalist asked her, says, what do you think it will be in the future? What are your desires for future? And guess what she says? She says that she wants to modify herself. Modify herself, then improve the qualities that she already had. Then the world of future is really or wonderful or scary. I don't know. I am the people, and I am the kind of person that think that it will be wonderful. Well, in terms of science, technology, we live this uncertain world. But what happens in terms of economy? In economy, we live a world where we don't know what's going to happen with commodities. China is growing very fast and go all around the world buying things. I was telling my friends that only a few days ago in Ecuador is a small country in Latin America, but we are a very diverse country. We have the coast, we have the Andean regions, tallest mountains than the Atlas Mountains that I had the opportunity to visit some years ago. And we have also the rainforest, the Amazonic rainforest. But we also have Galapagos Island. Some days ago, 250 big boats of China were surrounding Galapagos. Guess for why? Huh? Because they wanted our fishes. The things that the animals that we have at the bottom of the sea. And the government of Ecuador say, stop. It's our patrimony. This is ours. We cannot let you take all over and our people is going to starve. I know for sure that you have excellent sea products here in Morocco. I tried yesterday wonderful oysters from Dakhla. And I taste myself the wonderful products that you have. And you don't want them to disappear because they go and take it very fast. And it happens also with gold, with copper, with oil. What's going to happen in the future? If a bank is in bankruptcy in the United States, we say, okay, United States, it doesn't matter. No, no, no. Because this bank is linked with other banks all around the world. And if we have, Ecuador is a country that had a lot of immigration from Ecuadorians to Europe, especially to Spain, like Moroccans. Yeah, we have a big community of Ecuadorians living in Spain, and especially in some places like Barcelona or even Madrid or Murcia. And we also receive a lot of migrants from Venezuela with the big humanitarian crisis that we are living in Latin America. We received more than 400,000 Venezuelans in Ecuador, and it's for a small country like Ecuador, it is a big amount. And we receive a lot of Colombians. And when I think about this world of economy, we know that everything is linked. A bank is linked. If the banks or the economy of Spain is suffering, we are going to suffer because we had a lot of Ecuadorians living there and they are sending money to our country. And it happens the same with the United States. Then it's an uncertain world. And another proof, climate change. Climate change. We live in a world that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Because of the big crisis that we are living, now we are talking not only about economic migrants, but climate change migrants. Because people has to move from one side that is close to the sea, to the level of the sea, to highlands. Some archipelagos are in big risk, like Micronesia or others. And also, when we know that when we are doing something that is not good for nature in one side of the world, it can affect the other side of the world. I can give you a couple of examples. For example, we have in our territory part of the Amazon rainforest. We say that if we cut the big trees that are there, we are affecting, of course, our territory, but we are affecting probably half of the United States can be a desert if we cut the Amazon forest. And the Amazon forest is one of the big modifiers of climate, the regulator of climate, of the weather in the world. Then, in Morocco, you can have very hot summer if we cut our forest. But also, if France, like some years ago, they decided to do some nuclear experiences there in the Pacific, Atolón de Mururoa. If they make that, our people is suffering because the radiation goes through the ocean, thousands of kilometers, and arrives directly to the coast of Ecuador. And pregnant women had problems. Then the interrelation between all of us in climate, in economy, in technology is really big. That's the uncertain world. What can we do to prepare our people for this uncertain world? And the question and the answer is education, education, and education. Only education can prepare us and the new generations of how to live this new world. Preparing them in a conscious and ethical values to deal with all this, knowing that the resources, they are not forever. In the past, we learned that nature is forever. When I was a kid, a young kid in my school in Cuenca, in my own city, the teachers of mathematics asked these small kids and said, tell us about the products or the issues that are impossible to count. And for, of course, they are non-endless products. And we, of course, say, like, for example, the suns of a beach, of course, the stars on the sky. We cannot count them. They are forever. And the people say also water. Water is not going to end. Yeah? People say. But you people from the desert here in Morocco, you know very well that it's not the amount of water that we need. And it could be ended. And if water ends, life will end. Then we have to prepare the new generations to save the nature, to be conscious about the possibility that resources can end and we cannot replace them unless we conquer Mars or the stars. I don't know what's going to happen because things are going very fast nowadays that the private sector is going on through the conquer of the space. In the past, it was only a commitment of certain governments like the US government or Chinese government or others, Russian government. But now Elon Musk and others are trying to conquer the space. Then it could be faster because private sector is faster than the governments because the bureaucracy and all the things and they could find availability of money in anywhere. Well, but in terms of reality, what we have now, we have to be conscious and to be careful about the nature resources. They are not forever. They can be replaced, but not as faster as we want because we are close to 8 billion inhabitants in the world, and we are growing very fast. Then we have to be careful about that. We also have to prepare our students for jobs and professions that they are not yet in the world. Because in the past, you learned to be a lawyer, and you know that you are going to practice law, and you want to be a medical doctor or a business person, and you know that you are going on with that. Sometimes in the past, father was a doctor and son and the grandson, but now it's impossible nowadays. We have to think how is growing and changing the market, and which one will be the professions that you need to achieve. Probably you cannot dream even now which one are the professions. And it's not the meaning that you have to study several professions just in case. Just in case I will learn this and this and this. It's impossible. But you have to stimulate in the students, and I am a teacher. I started my career to being a teacher when I was 17 years old. And the nuns in my school asked me, do you want to be a teacher? Even before I graduated from high school, I say, oh, I am a little scary to be in front of all these girls, because it was a girls' school. But say, try. Okay, I tried, and I liked it. Then I know how important it is to be a good teacher and to stimulate especially one thing in your students. It doesn't matter if they are small, small kids, or they are grown teenagers. You have to stimulate curiosity. Curiosity. You have to ask them to be curious about anything. The problem is that most of the schools, I don't know the reality of Morocco, but I know very well the reality of many countries, especially in Latin America. And I know for sure that most of the teachers want the kids silent, no bothering anybody, not moving, not being different. That is what the traditional school asked the professors to be. But now we want to stimulate the curiosity, because only the curious are going to survive in this very competitive world. The other thing that we have to work on is about ethics, values. Because I really discovered that science without values, without ethics, is a mess. You can create monsters. You can create the destruction of the world if you don't have ethics and values. The old values, because that doesn't change. To do the good things for the others, to share with the others, to respect the others, those are the old values. I remember when I studied law at the university that I have the old Roman formulas. Neminen laedere, sum quoque tribuere. It's the same. To share, to distribute, to respect the life of others. That's the same in the old codex, Roman codex at that time. But I'm sure in El Quran and the Bible, old basic big religions, we have all the same. To respect the others, to respect the life and the thoughts and the money of others, and to be generous, and when you are in power, not to take the things from the others, because that's a big issue. I think especially I talk in democracies, the two big cancers for democracy, they are the corruption, big cancer for democracy, corruption, and the other big cancer is poverty. Because if there is a big gap between the people that has everything and a lot of money and the people that doesn't have anything, that's a big cancer. Because people start to be non-satisfied with what's happening and can destroy it. The establishment, what it gets a lot of time to build. And you know it very well here in the Arab countries. What happens with the Arab Spring. I had the opportunity to visit quite often, for example, Egypt. And I am part of the board of the Library of Alexandria. Then I had the opportunity to talk with people and to know what happens there. Because they said, okay, especially young people with Facebook and with social networks, go to the streets. But after that, what? What's coming? Is it for better or it's not for better? Then it's so important to create and to stimulate values in young people to know exactly how the world of the future can be. Curiosity, values, the desire of learning all the time. Universities are very important, but not the classic universities. The relation between a university and a person, it has to be, I think there are probably some bankers here. When a person like you and me and you, we open an account in a bank, we are thinking to go to the bank quite often. We need money, when we need a loan, when they need something from the bank. It's the same with university. The relation between a student and a university doesn't stop with the graduation. Now we are talking especially of online universities. We have to go to university any time that we need. We have a career, but after a while, we need another thing, because we are starting a new business, or we are starting a new situation. Then we have to go to university, like going to the bank. Then the permanent need to learn. Sometimes it could be formal in a university of a center of study, but it could be non-formal also. There are a lot of sources of knowledge. In internet, we have to discriminate what's true and what's fake news, because there are a lot of fake news arriving through your cell phone or through your laptop, to your iPad, and you have to discriminate what's true and what's not true. And how you can do it? Because of knowledge, because you know, because you are aware of what's happening, and you have to get different sources of information, not only one. That's one of the big challenges now. You need to have different sources of information, not only one. Because if you have only one, you can make a big mistake. Then, like I'm talking about small kids, curiosity is a very important thing. And it doesn't end when you go from childhood to mature age. You have to be curious. You have to be responsible. We have to cultivate values. And I think with that, I can change what the old people says to me. My grandfather says to me, all the was before was better. All times were better. They say it many times. They say, all times it was better. Better gastronomy, better families. But I'm sure that if we are responsible, all new times will be better for us. Thank you very much.